At first I thought these may have been disguised vent pipes, but I don't see any openings in the pipes. They're labeled with different country names. A pretty floral adaptation of the concept, whatever the concept is. Now we'll return back to that road, I believe. Is sculpture, particularly depending upon what side you see it from. Without even knowing I was doing it, I think I've arrived at the cable car, which will take me across the river. So this is what they mean by a cable car. There's a cable car, but there's that flying rig with just two people suspended below it. This wing deal is rather clever. You can be suspended from that. And then when the cable car, this thing right here, gets all the way over on the other side, then they let this wing deal go down by itself on the cable to the center point. So, and then it's kind of stopped by the spring load on the front of this cable car, and it pushes them back up to this position here. You can also bungee jump. Bungee jump, they take you in the car and you jump out of the car in the center. Deal's kind of clever because it gives you a little sensation, I imagine, of the paragliding, at least the idea of being suspended underneath something, but without the skill or the direct attachment to something that's directly attached to Earth. And that is Krimulda that we're going to visit. Down we'll take a serpentine path, they call it, down along the slope there to the river, and then down to, I think it's Gutman's Cave, and then we'll hike back up some stairs and then hike over to the castle that we saw over there a few minutes ago. Ladies out walking their kid. So there's Newcastle that we visited a little bit ago, and then next to it, Old Castle. Looks like an older house that's still occupied, although the greenhouse it once had is abandoned now. You notice how it apparently generated heat for perhaps wintertime use. Krimulda Manor Garden. I don't know if this is Krimulda. This is Krimulda. You can see that it once was a rather regal entryway. You can see that it was once a very impressive place in the neoclassical style. Probably far more elaborate gardens here in the day, and you wonder what this long building was for. Giant guest house, I don't know. Interesting that it's being allowed to seriously deteriorate. Huh. Huh. Imagine the day when the carriages rolled up here. Apparently it was Prince Johann Lehmann's getting up just to hang out with a full-blown suit and vest, tie and everything. Yikes. The servants during the 1830s, what stories they could tell. The kitchen was in the basement. Servants at work. 1882. The building that we're looking at was some kind of a hospital facility. When the country took over its independence, it nationalized everybody's land, divided among new farmers. At some point, the Red Cross was instrumental, I think in the 20s, in building a health center here for tuberculosis. The reason the Russian army didn't blow it up was it was a hospital. And now it's a children's sanatorium. Some activities going on today which they gently but reasonably firmly discouraged me from looking further inside the manor. It suggested instead that I content myself with looking at the exterior. So those suffering / dying from tuberculosis would have their own little rooms, staff to take care of them, and sunbathing on that deck. Fortunately for those people, there was such a place. Inside the gates and the fence of the manor house is this interesting structure. It's the steward's house. Presumably all of these buildings up here were part of this manor house complex. So we'll take a closer look. Hopefully each building has an interpretive sign on it. It looks like a house, doesn't it? Whatever this was, it's now a cafe. Well, in my low-class opinion, the steward had the best deal. I like his house. Here we see that small stone or pebble treatment mixed with the large rocks on what might have been a industrial building type, or the barn. Another interesting old building. Just interesting, a sewer manhole. This was a pretty substantial building. On the other hand, I guess the lands that he probably controlled were rather extensive, and who knows, in addition to a winery, at least assuming that this sign that says winery was not just today's, but an allusion in part to the past, there may have been a great deal of agricultural production going on this estate, like a kitchen or something. Inside the basement, through this window, place where they dumped old furniture and what looks like hospital carrying gurneys. There was a barn, that's for cows. Where these little lanes go. If only I had the time. Homes still lived in. It's interesting. Are these the people who work at the manor house, which still presumably performing medical functions? Here, of course, the classic ramp allowing you to get hay and that sort of thing up on the second floor for storage. But imagine when this was an active place. We would have had to dodge wagons and horses and cows and probably chickens and pigs fluttering about. So as one might imagine, there was apparently a complete little village up here. How much of it existed during the 1800s? Don't know. This is all restored. Pretty monumental archway just for where the cattle might have been kept in amongst those buildings. What were these archways for? cute little round windows that don't look like windows. Maybe they are either just decoration or allowed air to flow through. Substantial fence that was put around the manor house to protect it from whom? Its employees. These were the original gates. Not frighteningly impressive, are they? Certainly a monument to a horrible disease that is now, at least for us, pretty much non-existent in virulent form. Pretty flowers. Notice how when they die, they dangle down, or at least earlier ones did.